Nthabi walked slowly into the house, still weak from the pain and the long night at Quail General Hospital. She had just lost her baby. Her body ached. Her heart was broken. She expected silence, maybe concern. Instead, she heard laughter from the kitchen. Confused, she followed the sound. There, at the table, sat a woman she had never seen before, eating jollof rice from her favorite bowl. Her husband, Chaik, stood beside her, smiling as he fed the woman like they were on a date. The woman looked up at Nthabi, wearing her soft pink robe, the one her mother gave her last birthday. Then, with a lazy smirk, she said, "You're the maid, right?" Nthabi didn't answer. Her stitches were fresh, her spirit crushed. Her eyes moved from the stranger's bold face to her husband's calm one. He didn't even look guilty. He just poured more juice like nothing was wrong. Nthabi's hands shook, but she said nothing. She walked slowly past them, into the bedroom she once shared with him. Where the bed was no longer hers alone. She sat at the edge, breathing hard, holding in her tears. The pain in her stomach was nothing compared to the one in her chest. Her world had changed in one night. She had lost a child, and now she had to face the truth: her husband had replaced her without a second thought. But deep inside, something had started to shift. Something quiet. Something strong. Nthabi stood in the hallway, weak from her hospital stay, her body still healing and her heart even more bruised. The house, once her safe place, now felt unfamiliar, like a stranger's home. Her eyes moved toward the bedroom door, the same room she had shared with Chaik for years. But before she could say a word, Chaik stepped out, blocking her path. His face was hard, cold. Without emotion, he pointed to the floor near the living room and threw a pillow down like he was tossing out trash. "You're not sleeping in there," he said. "This is my house. You sleep where I say." She looked at the pillow lying on the cold tiles. It felt like a final slap. No concern for her pain, no care for her broken heart, no respect left. Just orders. Just power games. Nthabi didn't argue. She didn't ask why. She simply bent down, picked up the pillow, and lay on the floor without a word. She heard laughter from the bedroom. That woman, the one who wore her robe, who sat at her table, was now lying in her bed, laughing with her husband. It was a sound that once brought her joy. Now, it sounded like thunder ripping her world apart. But Nthabi didn't cry. She stared at the ceiling, her arms crossed over her chest, her body still. Her mind drifted to a memory she had almost forgotten. Her late mother, frail but full of wisdom, had once handed her a plain envelope. "This is for you," she had whispered. "Keep it safe. One day, it will remind you who you are." Inside that envelope was the property paper. The house. The land. Everything. In her name. Her mother had bought the house in Nthabi's name before she died, never telling Chaik. Only her, and the family lawyer, knew the truth. That night, as Nthabi lay on the hard floor, she smiled quietly to herself. Chaik thought he had one. He thought she had no choice, no voice. He believed he had the final say, that he was the king of a house that wasn't even his. He didn't know the floor he ordered her to sleep on was hers. The roof above his head belonged to her. Even the walls that now listened to their laughter, were hers. She didn't need to yell. She didn't need to fight. Her silence was her power. Her patience was her plan. The pain in her body would pass, but this moment would stay with her forever, the moment she stopped begging for space in her own life. She wasn't weak. She wasn't defeated. She was simply waiting. Waiting for the right time to remind him that queens do not scream in battle. They sit on their thrones and let the truth speak for them. So Nthabi turned her face toward the window. The stars were quiet, but somehow, they looked like they knew. Knew that change was coming. And as the laughter continued behind the bedroom door, Thabi closed her eyes, not in pain, but in peace. Because the game wasn't over. In fact, it had just begun. The morning sun came through the curtains like it didn't know the kind of pain Thabi had faced the night before. She moved slowly, her body still sore from the hospital, her heart still carrying the weight of everything. In the kitchen, the smell of toast filled the air, but it didn't feel like home. She walked in to find the same woman again, the one who had worn her robe, shared her bed, and laughed with her husband. This time, she sat at the breakfast table like a queen, sipping orange juice and scrolling through her phone. Chaik was nowhere to be seen. Thabi didn't say a word. She reached for the cloth and started wiping the lower shelf of the cabinet. The silence was thick, but not for long. The woman looked up from her phone with a mocking smile and said, "You should dust better down there. It's a little dirty." Then she giggled to herself, like it was the funniest joke in the world. Thabi paused for a second, cloth in hand. She didn't snap. She didn't throw anything. She just smiled. A quiet, calm smile. The kind of smile that didn't come from fear, but from knowing something the other person didn't. She turned around, wiped her hands, and politely said, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." Then she walked out to the backyard, where the sun was a little warmer and the air felt easier to breathe. There, under the mango tree her mother used to love, Thabi pulled out her phone. Her hands were steady, her voice strong. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the name, Mr. Akin. Her mother's lawyer. A man who had once said, "If you ever need anything, call me. Your mother was special to me." The phone rang once. Then twice. "Hello," came the voice. "Good morning, Mr. Akin," she said softly but clearly. "This isn't Thabi. My mother's daughter. I need your help." There was a pause. Then a warm, respectful tone replied, "Of course. What do you need?" She looked back at the house, where laughter and cruelty had replaced love and kindness. Then she turned away and said, "It's time to talk about the property papers. I want to take action." She ended the call and slipped the phone back into her pocket. She didn't rush back into the house. She stood there for a few more moments, listening to the birds, the wind, and her own heartbeat, steady, confident, ready. She had been mocked. She had been pushed. But now, she was done staying silent. The joke at breakfast didn't sting. It lit a fire. Because the woman sitting at her table might think she had won, but Thabi had already played her card. And it wasn't just any card, it was the one her mother had left behind. A gift. A shield. A sword. And now, Thabi was ready to use it. Not with anger. Not with loud words. But with the quiet power of a woman who finally remembered who she was. Thabi moved around the house quietly, almost like a shadow. She didn't argue, didn't raise her voice, and didn't question anything anymore. Chaik saw this as weakness. He walked around with his mistress like nothing was wrong, laughing loudly, holding her waist, even kissing her in front of Thabi. He thought she had given up. He thought he had won. To him, she was just a silent woman, too broken to fight back. But what he didn't know was that Thabi wasn't broken, she was planning. She had already uploaded the house listing 3 days ago. High-resolution pictures, full description, furniture included, serious buyers only. Everything was ready. And now, someone had responded. The buyer wasn't just anyone. He was a big construction mogul from Abuja. He didn't care about the drama in the house, all he wanted was the land, the house, and everything in it. When he asked for a virtual tour, Thabi agreed immediately. She chose the perfect time. Chaik had taken his mistress out for lunch. She knew they'd be gone for hours, pretending to be a couple in a marriage that was already over. Back at home, Thabi stood in her bedroom, the one where she hadn't been allowed to sleep for days, and walked the buyer through each room with her phone camera. "This is the living area," she said, her voice calm. "Over here is the dining room. Fully furnished. And this," she said, opening the curtain just slightly, "is the view from the master bedroom window." The buyer liked what he saw. "Perfect," he said. "I'll make an offer today. Cash." She smiled politely and ended the call. Then she stood in the same room where Chaik and his mistress had shared whispers and laughter, and looked around. The bed. The wardrobe. The dresser she had saved up for. All of it was going. She was letting it go, along with everything else. And strangely, it didn't hurt. It felt like freedom. From the kitchen window, she saw Chaik returning. He had shopping bags in one hand, his mistress in the other. They were probably laughing about something silly, something cruel. Nthabi didn't flinch. She walked out of the bedroom slowly, greeted them with the same quiet smile she had used for days, and went straight to her room. Chaik didn't notice the glow on her face. He thought she was just tired. Weak. Defeated. But inside, Nthabi was already gone. She had already moved on in her heart. The house wasn't a home anymore, it was a deal. A transaction. A key to her next chapter. She had pretended to be helpless so well, even Chaik believed it. But now, the game was almost over. She sat on the edge of the bed and checked her email. The buyer's message was already there, offer accepted. Let's move quickly. She closed her eyes and let out a small, peaceful sigh. While Chaik was busy flaunting betrayal, she was selling the very walls around him. And soon, he would learn. The silence he ignored was actually the sound of power returning home. The morning felt like any other. Chaik and his mistress were getting ready to go out again. Nthabi watched from the kitchen as the woman giggled, showing off her nails, while Chaik said something about shopping for rings. He laughed like a schoolboy, holding her hand, acting like they were planning a wedding, while his real wife stood just a few feet away, silent. But Nthabi didn't flinch. She just nodded when they said goodbye, even holding the gate open as they left. The moment their car disappeared down the road, her smile dropped. It was time. She walked straight to the dining table, the one they never let her sit at anymore. She remembered so many nights sitting alone while they laughed together, ignoring her like she was invisible. But not today. Today, that same table would witness her power. She pulled out the neatly stacked documents from her bag and laid them out on the polished wood. Her lawyer was already waiting on video call. "Are you ready to sign?" he asked gently. Nthabi took a deep breath, then picked up the pen. "I'm ready," she said. One signature after another, page by page, she sealed the deal. The house was sold. The buyer's office confirmed everything in less than 10 minutes. "Funds have been transferred to your account," the voice on the call said. Nthabi quickly opened her banking app. Her heart skipped a beat. The money was there, full payment, no delays. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from relief. She had done it. Quietly. Cleanly. No drama. No shouting. She looked around the house, her house, one last time. Every wall, every chair, every photo frame held memories, both sweet and bitter. But none of it mattered anymore. She was free now. Her silence had spoken louder than any scream ever could. She stood up slowly, took one last sip of tea, and calmly began packing her small bag. Outside, birds chirped. Inside, peace settled in like an old friend. She placed the signed copy of the sale receipt right in the middle of the dining table, next to a small note with just 2 words, "I know." Then she walked to the mirror, fixed her scarf, and gave herself a little smile. The kind of smile a woman wears when she takes her power back. Just before she stepped outside, she heard a car approaching. Chaik was back. Probably holding shopping bags and dreaming of a fake future. But he had no idea. As the front gate opened, Thabi didn't look back. She walked past him in heels, cool and calm, without a single word. Chaik froze at the gate, confused. "Where are you going?" he asked, laughing nervously. She didn't answer. The new owners were already pulling in behind him, holding the keys she had left for them. That was her final move. No argument. No revenge. Just action. And as she walked away from the house they thought they owned, Thabi didn't feel pain. She felt powerful. Because while they were out shopping for rings, she was signing freedom. The morning air was quiet, almost too quiet. Thabi stood in the bedroom, staring at the bed she used to share with Chaik. It was the same bed where he once whispered promises, then later, shared with another woman while she slept on the floor. So much had changed, yet the bed still sat there like nothing had happened. She walked slowly toward it, her footsteps soft on the tiles. In her hand was a folded piece of paper, the bill of sale. Proof that the house no longer belonged to Chaik. That everything he had taken for granted, the walls, the roof, even the air, was no longer his. She placed the paper gently on the pillow. The same pillow he had last touched. The same one he had thrown on the cold floor for her to sleep on. She took a moment to breathe. It wasn't sadness she felt. It was calm. She didn't need to scream or cry anymore. She had done what needed to be done. Quietly. Smartly. Powerfully. Her small suitcase was by the door. She picked it up and took one last look at the room. The curtains moved gently with the breeze, almost like they were saying goodbye. Downstairs, she heard the sound of a car pulling up. Right on time. The new owners were here. Thabi walked through the house like a queen making her exit. Every corner of the home held memories, some warm, some painful. But she was not carrying those memories with her. She was only carrying herself, and that was enough. At the front gate, she met the new owners. A kind couple with smiles and gentle eyes. She handed them the keys without hesitation. "It's all yours now," she said. They nodded, grateful, not fully aware of the story behind the sale. And that was fine. They didn't need to know. Just as she turned to leave, Chaik's car appeared at the corner of the road. He parked outside, stepping out with shopping bags in hand, the other woman following behind. Their faces were full of laughter, unaware of the storm that had already passed. He saw Thabi standing at the gate, dressed neatly, suitcase in hand, heels clicking on the stone. His smile faded. "Thabi," he called, confused. "What's going on?" She didn't answer. She didn't even slow her step. She simply walked past him, past the house, past everything. The woman beside him looked lost, whispering something into his ear, but even she didn't understand. The new owners walked into the yard, waving kindly at Chaik like they had just met a neighbor. Chaik looked around, panic rising in his chest. He rushed into the house, calling her name. Then he ran upstairs, into the bedroom, and stopped. There, on the pillow, was the paper. The receipt. Signed, sealed, final. His hands shook as he read it. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He collapsed onto the bed that no longer belonged to him. Outside, Thabi kept walking, her back straight, her heart light. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. She had already said everything, without a single word. Chaik stood frozen in the bedroom, holding the paper with trembling hands. The words were clear, the house had been sold. Everything inside, the walls, the floors, the furniture, no longer belonged to him. He dropped the receipt and rushed outside, calling Thabi's name like a man waking from a bad dream. His feet were bare, his shirt half-buttoned, his voice cracked with panic. "Thabi! Please," he cried, running down the street. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, whispering, but Nthabi kept walking. Her heels clicked calmly on the pavement, her suitcase rolling behind her like a quiet drumbeat of freedom. She didn't need to turn around. She had already heard everything she needed in the silence, in the nights he ignored her, in the insults, in the cold floor he made her sleep on. That floor was never his. The house was never his. Not truly. It had always been hers. A quiet gift from her mother. A lifeline hidden in plain sight. And now, that same house was her victory. Chaik fell to his knees on the road, still calling her name, begging, confused, broken. But it was too late. His power, his pride, his arrogance, all gone. Nthabi didn't raise her voice, didn't throw things, didn't argue. She just walked away, strong and silent. And that silence was louder than any scream. She didn't walk in pain. She walked in peace. Because when he pointed to the floor and said, "This is my house," he had no idea, it never was.